Hey guys, I'm so excited to bring you along with me on my trip to Africa. So first I want to shout out my friend Passport P, who's traveled to almost 45 countries, but because of her Amex Platinum card, we were able to enjoy a beautiful airport lounge at JFK. Ghani people, we're at our layover in Kenya, and then we're headed to Seychelles. Yeah.
To the Nomo in Nampula. Passengers on this flight, kindly proceed to gate number 20A. Thank you.
Do we know what gate we're at? Oh, obviously not. We don't have a gate yet, right? Stop right here. Okay, so word to the wise, when you see a good flight deal from Kenya Airways, don't take it because there's always a trick. So we got here around, I don't know what time my flight landed, but it was supposed to leave at 12:45, and so immediately they told us that it would be delayed until like 1:23 or something like that, which is fine because I had booked the second flight from Mahi Island to Praslin for like 6:50 p.m. Then as 1:20 comes around, they tell us that the flight is delayed until 5 p.m. So naturally, we're just like, okay, so what are we supposed to do? We have a connecting flight. So for some people, they had booked the flights all the way through to Praslin, but for me, mine was only to Mahi, so I had to book a separate flight. They essentially told me that because I booked a separate flight, I need to pay the change fees to that flight, even though their flight is the one that caused me to be delayed. So essentially, I'm going to have to pay additional. I'm probably going to have to pay a no-show fee at Air Seychelles because they're basically like, you just missing your flight. That don't have nothing to do with us that Kenya Airways was mad delayed. No-show fee, and then like a rebooking fee or whatever the cost is to rebook. I don't even know what the cost is going to be in order to do that. So they tell us that, okay, well, we'll serve lunch at 2:30 for the inconvenience. Like, first of all, thank you for serving us lunch, but it's a greater inconvenience, at least that I have to face. And then they late for lunch. So now we're trying to figure out what's going on. There's a bunch of people in here. A lot of people are upset. and I know to never ever fly with Kenya Airways. Also, their customer service desk, they were extremely rude. Like, those girls are like passing notes in like their native language about us, laughing and looking, and I'm just like, are y'all here to help us? Like, because I didn't come in making jokes. My flight was delayed. That's causing me to miss my additional flight. You guys are basically saying you can't do anything about it. Like, that's not really a laughing matter. And I don't even know what's going to happen if this flight is going to be delayed even more, or if I get there, how I'm going to want to get from one island to another, because I'm getting there so late. There's no ferry, like water ferry or anything, so really flight is the only option to get to the other island. So what happens to my first night accommodation? There's so many questions. So I say all that to say, Kenya Airways is the worst. Not necessarily because of the delays, but because of their inability to properly like solve customer issues, and their professionalism overall. So this is what we got. Everything is unflavored and dry, but I don't know, it looks like it's supposed to have some flavor, but I can't taste anything.
I don't have underclothes, and I knew
you don't have anything.
There was no justifiable reason for me to check my bag.
Yeah. The night, catching a 10:30 something flight to Praylin. No luggage because our luggage did not get delivered. So yeah. No, that's 7A.
Is that your seat? Please take your seat for the trimming of the arrow. Okay, so it's missing here then.
This was quite a day. I can't. What time is it? Oh, it's the wrong time. It's 11:05. We just landed here in Praylin. Because it's so late, there are no taxis. So yeah. Yeah. I'm about to figure this out.
So when traveling, I use an offline maps called maps.me, which you're able to use without cellular data. It's so important, especially when I'm in countries where I don't have Wi-Fi or data.
Alright, so we gotta take the stairs up to the fifth floor because the lift. Oh, okay. We're not gonna get stuck.
I just follow people.
Okay. You got the key?
Yeah,
Alright. If we get stuck, we're gonna scream. Go to the third floor. Okay. I'm here in Seychelles. It's an island off the east coast of Africa, and the past 48 hours have been crazy. So I wanted to tell you guys a little bit about everything that basically me and my friend experienced. So to start, we found flight deals for like $400. They were, it's so hot. They were through this website called Secret Fly, where they tell you when there's like a flight deal. So essentially they said that it was a fuel dump, which essentially means that they're either going to pick up fuel or drop off fuel. So the flight there was out of JFK, which is in New York. I'm based out of DC, so I had to make my way up to New York. That was about a 4.5 hour bus ride. And then that took us to downtown New York City. Sorry, it's really hot. I'm gonna have to move. That took us to like downtown New York City. Oh, you guys can't see the mountains anymore. So that took us to like I think it's the 1 train that's down there. It's like West 7th and like 21st or something like that. So we caught the 1 train uptown to Penn Station. It was only like 1 stop away. And at Penn Station, we took the Long Island Railroad train, which was about $7.75, if I remember correctly. And we took that to Jamaica Station. Jamaica Station, we got off, and then we caught an AirTran to JFK. So that was all long in and of itself, but it was fine because I'm used to traveling to New York. That's like a second home to me. So we get to so if we take the AirTran, we get to JFK. We were based out of Terminal 4 because that was Kenya Airways, and it was actually it's a pretty nice terminal. JFK is huge, so I've been to some really crappy parts of JFK, but I didn't even see this part before. It was really nice. My friend actually has the Amex Platinum card, which gives her the priority pass, which allows her to access airport lounges. So I started my drinking and eating early, so I had like a glass of rosé in the lounge, and there was some like lunch. They just had like sandwiches. We had just missed breakfast, and we were right before lunch. So we took our flight. The first leg of the flight was from JFK to Nairobi. It was about 13 hours, and essentially that was a fine flight. The seats were so uncomfortable though. Like after hour number 2 or 3, I was just so uncomfortable. I had to move. I felt like I was bothering the person I was sitting next to, but I was just so uncomfortable. The movie selection, it was fine. It was movies that I had not watched before. It wasn't as much as I've seen on planes before. So we get to Nairobi. All is well. We were told that our bags will be checked to our final destination. For me, that was Mahi Island, and then I had bought an additional flight from Mahi Island in Seychelles to Praslin Island, or Praslin is what it looks like. And my friend, her flight went, it was basically the same sequence, but all of her flights on the way there were booked through Kenya Airways. So once we get to Nairobi, they basically tell us that our flight has been delayed. Instead of leaving at 12:45, it's leaving around like 1:25. So that was fine. So we grabbed lunch early, and then we went and waited for our flight. So about around like 1:20, they tell us, oh, sorry to inform you, your flight is actually being delayed until 5 p.m. So it's actually a 3.5 hour flight from Nairobi to Mahi Island in Seychelles. And so my and her flight from Mahi Island to Praslin, or Praslin, I gotta say that right. Praslin is how they say it here. It's like French how they say it. Our flight was at 6:50 p.m. So if we left at 5 p.m., we probably wouldn't get to Mahi Island until, or Mahi Island, I'm probably saying that wrong too, until like 8:30. So we would have missed it. So we went to the counter desk of Kenya Airways. I was basically explaining, like, because they have like a delayed flight. I want to get my water out the sun because I need to drink this later. I'm so hot. Because it's their fault that the flight is delayed, then we shouldn't have to pay for it. And essentially they said, like, well, I would have to pay for my change fee because I booked the separate flight. I booked the Air Seychelles flight separately, which I definitely did, because they just booked us weird. Like on the way back, I have like the same flight she has, and so she has to book her flight separately, but on the way there I had to book mine separately for that last leg, which is in between Mahi and Praslin. So they said, oh well, hers, we can put her on the later Air Seychelles flight. I'm like, I literally booked the exact same Air Seychelles flight. If you guys can access your system, the Air Seychelles system, and book her or like change her flight, you should be able to change mine. So they were just like, no, you have to deal with it when you get on the ground. So I was a little bit upset. The gate agent for the Kenya Airways, those ladies are rude. They were like writing notes about us in their native language, looking at us, laughing. And there was this group of guys behind us. I had to realize where I was, which is I was in Nairobi. I think the men thought they could just like kind of brushed their way to the front, and we were just supposed to like pay attention to them and bow down to them. But the gate agent was like, no, you gotta, or the whoever customer service person for Kenya Airways was like, no, you have to wait in line. And the guys didn't want to leave, so I told them like, no, yeah, you have to wait. You have to wait. Like, we're not done yet. And they was like, well, there's 2 people here, and I'm like, well, there's me and my friend here too. So they're serving us 2, and next they'll serve you guys. But other than that, the gate agents, they basically, or the customer service people, they basically didn't help us at all. She did give me an email that I could, email for Kenya Airways that I could email in order to see what they would do. Because I basically was saying, like, you guys should cover my flight from Mahi to Praslin because of you, I'm missing it. So if there's a change fee, a no-show fee, or anything like that, that should be on you guys because you guys had the 5-hour delay in your flight. So she was like, no, whatever. So I'm upset. I'm just like, whatever, I'll deal with it when I get there. And I'm just preparing myself to pay for another flight. So they basically said like, oh, well, we'll give you guys lunch vouchers because like that was their way of like making everything better. And I was just like, all right, whatever, we do have to eat. So we ate, waited some more. We finally loaded the flight. The flight was supposed to leave at 5. We probably didn't start loading and boarding the plane until like 4:55, which, you know, you're supposed to board the plane around 4:15 if your flight is leaving at 5. So that took forever. And then I feel like I had a whole nap before we even took off. So needless to say, even though our new flight was supposed to leave at 5, it actually ended up leaving, it got to Mahi Island at 9:45. So it like landed around 9:45. That's what time we got off the plane. So here we are at 9:45. We just got off the plane. Mind you, like when we got to Nairobi, we never went through customs. So now we have to actually go through immigration and customs because we have essentially got to like one of the final locations and we have to grab our luggage and then get to Air Seychelles, their airline, which is at the same terminal and everything, in order to do our stuff. So we get there. We're trying to rush through immigration. It's hard, but like by some way, I hear that 10 o'clock is the last flight from Mahi Island to Praslin. And I'm just like, well, there's no more ferries. The ferries stop around like 4 or 5 because they don't go after it's dark outside. So the plane is really the only way to get it. You can't really swim through the ocean, I mean, to get there. So we finally we get to the immigration lady first at 9:59. So she's like asking us questions, and of course she's noticing that my return ticket says from Praslin to JFK, and my friend's return ticket says from Mahi to JFK. So she's like, oh, well, you're returning from Praslin. I was like, yes, I'm supposed to be going there now. She's like, wait, what? She was like, oh, well, the last flight's at 10. We was like, we know it's 9:59. We're trying to go now. We're like, hint, hint, wink, wink. We're trying to get through. We just dealt with these Kenya Airways people. It's absolutely crazy. So we're trying to get through. So she was like, okay. And then she just like let us through. Well, she didn't like let us through. She asked the regular security questions, like, you know, like, well, I don't know. Y'all should know. I'm so high and sweaty. But she asked like regular security questions. Where are you staying, etc. Is this your first time? Stuff like that. Yeah. But essentially, let's see. All right, so we get through immigration and we finally get to baggage claim because we have to claim our baggage first, and then we go through the customs part, which is where you declare what you need to declare or don't declare anything and walk through or whatever. So we finally get the baggage claim. We're waiting. Mind you, now it's like 10:04, 10:05, and we're just waiting for our baggage. And then when the like airport security guard says like, you guys need to go see the customer service desk here because there's no luggage. Like, what do you mean there's no luggage? Essentially, y'all had us wait, we had a 5-hour delay. Mind you, our flight got in around like 10 a.m. So from 10 to 12:45, we're like waiting in the airport already because we're thinking our flight leaves at 12:45. And then we have a 5-hour delay. You mean to tell me in that 5 hours, you forgot to put an entire airplane's luggage onto the carrier? Like, it wasn't just me, it was literally a bunch of people, like at least 30 people whose luggage, like basically everyone who checked their bag in didn't have luggage. So Kenya Airways, you guys did not put the luggage on the plane with the people. So you send me late, 5 hours late to an island, and you don't even send my luggage? So we had to basically go see the customer service ladies, and they were overwhelmed because there's a lot of angry people, and they gave us like these little papers that basically say like, oh, like they want to get your address for where you're staying, and like, oh, where ship your stuff. They said it was Monday night when we got in, right? So Monday night around 10 p.m. we get in, and they say like, oh, well, your stuff won't be there till Wednesday. So what are we supposed to do? We're just supposed to wear the same clothes for the next couple of days? And then like other people saying like, oh no, I've dealt with this before, like they'll give you a stipend in order to go shopping to get some stuff. Not Kenya Airways. That's not what, like, if they're so shady that they can't even put our luggage on the plane and can't even like explain like what's happening with the delay and making last minute changes like that, who knows if they're actually going to like respect anything with regards to any type of like paying for clothes that you have to wear, paying for toiletries, like the converter, because we're in a different country, so like in order to plug in our stuff we need a different converter. All that stuff was in my baggage. I got my money in my baggage. I got a lot of stuff in my baggage, or in my check bag. And luckily I had some extra stuff in my carry-on, just because I've traveled enough to know to throw something in my carry-on like that. Like this outfit was from my carry-on, this, and I put a black dress in there, so that I'll wear under this because this is kind of sheer. And luckily I'm like, I told you I'm a little bit of a hoarder, so I have like a little bit of extra stuff that I didn't need, so I'm like, oh, I'll just throw this in my carry-on. But my friend didn't do that, so she's like stuck. She had a pair of workout clothes, which I think is great, but like, what about underwear? What about toiletries? What about soap? What about, you would think that like the Airbnb that you're staying at or whatever, the hotel should have it, but like Airbnbs and stuff, sometimes they don't have those things. So like shampoo, conditioner, like all those stuff, sometimes they don't have those things, so that's something to consider. So we gave the customer service lady our stuff, and then as we're going through immigration, we're going to customs, I think, because that's when you give them the paper that says you don't have anything to declare. And the guy's like, are you declaring anything? I'm like, well, sir, they didn't send our luggage. How are we going to declare anything? You know? So that was quick, because it's like, oh, okay, well, if we don't have luggage, and we can get through really quickly. So we get through, and the guy's like, oh, well, you know, the last flight from Mahi Island to Praslin left at 10. And I'm just like, mind you, when we first got to JFK, someone told us as soon as we got there, we was like, where's Kenya Airways? They said, oh, the airline moved. Oh no, the airline left. The airline just left. And that's why I was just like, I know you're lying to me, because if the plane just took off, that's one thing, but how is the whole airline just going to leave? That doesn't make sense. So that guy was joking, so I didn't catch on to this joke that this new guy was saying, that like, oh, your plane left, because we're literally, you have an entire plane full of people who are trying to make it to the last location. The last plane, we've missed the last plane that leaves from one island to another. So that means we have to find accommodation that time of night, and you know, this is the island, so everything shuts down around a certain time. So 10 o'clock for sure is that time. So we weren't necessarily excited about that joke, but we ran to the Air Seychelles desk. Y'all, luckily, even though Kenya Airways sucks, luckily Air Seychelles, oh my gosh, they are amazing. So I had emailed them earlier, and Kenya Airways, to basically say like, it's Kenya Airways' fault. I do not want to be charged any additional fees, blah, blah, blah. I think I was basically CCing them on an email that I sent to Kenya Airways that basically said like, I just think, like, first of all, it's an inconvenience, but also I think that this should be something that Kenya Airways covers. But they just emailed me back. It must have been when I was in the air, because, you know, I didn't really have service when I landed, so I didn't even see this email until, like, this morning, where, like, my Wi-Fi, like, really kicked in. And they basically said, like, no worries, we rebooked you to a later plane, like, blah, blah, blah. And they were so cool about it. They didn't charge no extra fees, nothing. Like, they were so cool about it. And then when we get to the Air Seychelles desk, we're just like, did the last plane already leave? She was like, no, we held the plane for y'all. What? Y'all held the plane for us? They literally held the plane. It wasn't just me. It was about probably 15, 16, 17 people, but we were all coming from the same plane. So they literally held the plane for us. And so instead of the last plane leaving at 10 o'clock that night, the last plane, they held it until 10:45. And so we were all able to make our plane. We got to Praslin Island. There weren't really any taxis there, but the lady was able to find one. He took us to our accommodation, and oh, I was so happy. So happy. So I say all this to say I'm hot. It's 80 degrees outside. Praline is beautiful. You can literally like walk to the beach. Like it's a 5-minute walk and you can just walk into the water. Everything is absolutely gorgeous and beautiful. But Kenya Airways sucks. So if you see that flight deal, if it's with Kenya Airways, don't do it. If you do, make sure you don't check in any luggage. Just carry on. And I don't know, figure it out. But you might be delayed. You might miss the whole vacation. You never know. So yeah.
Hey, so I wanted to give you an update. On our way out of the country, we were flying out of Seychelles back to Kenya on our way to JFK. We spoke to the manager of the Kenya Airways, and he was actually really, really nice. He ended up giving us $100 cash for any inconvenience and us having to buy clothes and things like that. And then he also upgraded us to first class on our first leg from, it was a 3-hour flight from Mahé Island to Kenya for our layover in Nairobi onwards to JFK. But he explained to us that because like they knew from the beginning that our luggage was going to be left because it was a fuel dump. They knew they were picking up fuel, and in order to pick up fuel, the weight of the plane has to be under a certain amount. So they actually had to kick off 2 people because we were overweight, and they knew from the beginning that they weren't going to bring our luggage. So that just goes to show you that what good customer service would do. We definitely felt better and we felt more knowledgeable afterwards. And then also the extra $100 was definitely helpful. But mainly we got home safely, and that was the most important thing.
I was joking this whole time saying like, oh yeah, I can't wait, pack all my bathing suits, I'm finna be naked all up on these islands. But the whole time I'm actually probably about to be naked since they didn't send my luggage. Since the airline lost my luggage, I probably am actually gonna be naked.